Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the September 26, 2015 edition of the Midweek Update here on Rasslin with Redbeard. Let's get to it. Number 5 story of the week is that Lucha Underground Season 2 has been confirmed. This came across just within the past 24 hours or so here and was announced via social media. They had platforms, of course, from Lucha Underground. A lot of the talent were also sharing the news. Matt Cross was one of the bigger guys who've passed around an image that's been floating around, which we've also used to headline this particular story. This is big news, and if I sound a little excited about it, it's because I am. Lucha Underground is one of the few wrestling-related shows that I actually looked forward to here within the past year. It was to a point to where Wednesday nights were particularly anticipated because of the fact it was going to be a new episode of Lucha Underground there for a while. So I'm really excited about this. I'm glad they're bringing the show back. I'm glad they were able to get financing together. I know there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not it would be coming back at all, but it appears that they've gotten things ironed out. The details of that have not been released, but quite frankly, I don't care because it's just a point of pride to have this show back, period. If you're a wrestling fan and you don't watch Lucha Underground, I really would encourage you to give it a shot. It's not like Raw, it's not like SmackDown, it's not like American wrestling at all, or at least what we've come to expect from it. It's worth a shot. It's a very entertaining program. It's very bizarre in some of the storylines, the angles that they have on there. You've got a guy who's a dragon, another guy who's a walking ninja skeleton, Pentagon Jr. You just have to see it to believe it, but really would encourage you guys to check it out. They'll be returning sometime in 2016 on the El Rey network, which some people do or do not get depending on what your provider is. But regardless, it's definitely worth checking out, definitely worth going out of your way to check out. I would even go so far as to say. So yeah, got a lot to look forward to there, or at least something to look forward to there in 2016 as Lucha Underground will be returning for their second season. Number 4 story of the week is CM Punk's response to the defamation lawsuit. This is something that's been an ongoing situation for quite some time. If you're not familiar, I'm not going to go through the whole deal because it's a quite long story. But to give you a basic sense of it, WWE Dr. Chris Amon and CM Punk have been going back and forth due to some comments that Punk made on Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling podcast here a while back. Basically, Amon is suing Punk for defamation of character. He said some things that imply that he wasn't quite doing his job as a doctor. Punk is, of course, shot back with some claims of his own in regard to a staph infection that he had. The whole thing is one of these stories that will undoubtedly go down in wrestling history as a very absurd thing, but it's just part of the continuing saga between Punk and WWE and their relationship having gone sour. But this particular incident is a legal response that Punk issued through his lawyers, of course. And it's interesting because he's not pulling any punches. He's continuing to go straight forward with this thing, and it looks as though this could be headed for a jury trial at some point in the future. That would be something that I would pay money to see. If you can imagine Punk on a witness stand, having been called to give testimony in regard to something like this. He's likely not going to drop a microphone and call a pipe bomb there in a courtroom, but the fact of the matter is, you can imagine someone like him being able to deliver some pretty convincing testimony. Regardless, in his response, he was not, as I mentioned, bashful at all about saying that Dr. Amon is not at all valid in his claim. And like I said, this is probably going to go towards a jury trial at some point in the future, but that date has not been set yet. And this is going to be something that continues on for quite some time, I believe. Still, it's very interesting to see this this legal jousting going back and forth between Punk, WWE, and also one of their officials. Very, very peculiar, very, very interesting though, so we'll continue to follow this and bring updates as they're available. Number 3 story of the week is that Dixie Carter has confirmed Impact Wrestling's exit from Destination America. This is something that people have been speculating for quite some time. There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of talk about memos circulating behind the scenes at Destination America's offices, but it does seem as though now it's been made official that Impact will be off Destination America as of 2016. The people there behind the scenes apparently gave the folks at Impact, at TNA, enough time to possibly shop around their product. There was some talk that it could be ending at some point in September or October, but they're going to be around through the end of 2015. They're apparently going to be giving them enough time to shop around the product and see if they can get picked up by another network. But the fact of the matter is, this is the second cancellation they've had in roughly as many years. That's not a good sign for their product, not a good sign that they have a product that people want to invest in, especially from an advertising standpoint, which is what network TV like Destination America thrives off of. This is going to be a difficult run here for TNA. Of course, they've got the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, which is coming up in a few weeks. They say it's in Charlotte, but it's actually in Concord, North Carolina. It's just going to be a very interesting thing to see where these guys go in the future. There's been a lot of talent that have left the company. Here recently, Kenny King has announced that he's gone from TNA. He's not a huge name, but still, when you've got people who are from one side of the roster to the other in terms of their value, announcing that they're going to be making their departure from the company, it gives you a sense of what the outlook is there internally. Because Kurt Angle, of course, has been one who's announced that he's not going to be back with the company next year either. So it remains to be seen what's going to be Impact's future. TNA Wrestling, of course, you talk about two different entities because it's TNA Wrestling's product. Impact Wrestling is a TV show, but it's going to be something to really pay attention to here going forward as to whether or not Impact Wrestling has a future at all in 2016. Number 2 story of the week is our reaction to the WWE Night of Champions event. If you weren't paying attention, the Night of Champions show was this past Sunday, and it was a pretty entertaining show from top to bottom. As the name would imply, all the championships that WWE represents on the main roster were up for grabs, and 3 of them changed hands. You had changes with the Divas division, the Intercontinental title, and also the United States Championship. There was a pulling of the trigger on something that people would have, I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen a week or so ago, in changing the Divas title over from being held by Nikki Bella to Charlotte. Something that was a little bit of a surprise was that they went ahead and decided to give the Intercontinental title to Kevin Owens. Of course, it was previously held by Ryback. Personally speaking, I think it's a fantastic move because Ryback bores the ever-loving you-know-what out of me. And then also you had the United States Championship going back to John Cena. Cena has done a lot for the United States Championship in terms of making it irrelevant and also a top-tier title in my opinion. He's still not, going to be recognized as the most amazing wrestler in the world, but the fact of the matter is, Cena, like I've said on the site here before, Cena does God's work in terms of the stuff he does for charities and for Make-A-Wish Foundation and whatnot. So between that and the fact that he's had a lot of fantastic matches with some top-tier talent for that United States Championship makes him a fantastic member of their program right now. But the show overall, towards the top, you had, of course, the United States Championship there and also the World Heavyweight Championship, which was a match between Seth Rollins and Sting. Rollins, I'll go ahead and say, turned in some phenomenal performances. The man has amazing conditioning, one of the best athletes possibly ever in the history of professional wrestling, I'll go ahead and say. But the match with Sting, towards the end, it got kind of scary because Sting was evidently injured in the match, and somewhat significantly so. But the match itself was quite brutal. They did spots through the announce table, a lot of very high impact maneuvers. But overall, it was a fantastic story that they told, a very entertaining show top to bottom. And the big announcement going out of that show was that the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which is coming up in October, will be headlined by a cell match involving The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. That may or may not be the blow-up of their feud they have going currently. This, of course, will be the second time they've met in a cell match. But it's going to be a pretty interesting event there going forward. We'll have to see what the rest of the card holds for the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up next month. And the number 1 story of the week is Sting's injury and his possible future in the business. This is something, as I mentioned in the number 2 story that happened at the main event of the Night of Champions show here a couple days ago. It looked pretty bad whenever it happened live. You could tell whenever Rollins gave the buckle bomb to Sting that he was injured almost immediately. He staggered away from the turnbuckle there and collapsed. Rollins tried to shoot him in for an Irish whip or some type of maneuver, and he just couldn't compete anymore at that point in time. It was amazing to see him finish the match, though, because the extent of the injuries are not fully known, but they're being described as something that could be neck and or spinal related. Could also have been something that was maybe even a concussion, because of the fact that when he took the buckle bomb, you could see very clearly his head went back and forth very quickly, and that's a situation where a concussion can occur. Just that brain trauma from where the actual organ is moving around inside a man's skull like that. It didn't look good, looked bad. I hate to say it, but it's possible that this injury could be career-threatening to Sting. He's a 56-year-old man, though. He's been in the ring for a long time. I can remember, of course, days when it was, bleach blonde, face paint Sting back in the good old days. I hate to see him go out like this, especially considering he's only had 2 matches in WWE, 3, counting the one with Big Show there on Raw a few weeks ago, but he's not really had that big signature moment with WWE, and that would be really unfortunate if it does end his career here on this particular note. We'll have to wait and see what happens. There was a tease that he was going to have an announcement before Raw, but it looks as though they're going to wait and see what's actually going on with his injuries before he makes any type of announcement regarding his future or what may be left for him in the business. All that having been said, we're at the point of the program where we like to talk about the local events that are coming up this weekend. To our knowledge, there are 13 events happening in and around the Carolinas. We've got a lot happening up around the upstate in South Carolina, some other stuff that's kind of scattered around as well. In the posters that we've got coming up here, there are a few shows that are not included in that rundown. We've got one happening up in Chesney, South Carolina for Underground Independent Wrestling. That's going to be happening on Saturday the 26th. They have Chase Owens, who is a former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. He'll be competing in a match against Rob Killjoy. Also, we have Action Pack Wrestling in Chester, South Carolina. They're going to be having their show on Friday the 25th. The main event for that match will be a ladder match, again, between Rob Killjoy, guy gets around, and Cedric Alexander, who's a Ring of Honor superstar. And we also, I believe, will have an event happening in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina with C4W Explosive Wrestling. All right, let's go ahead and roll those posters and get you caught up on what's happening in this part of the world. There you have it, folks, our rundown of the events that are happening in our part of the world this coming weekend. If you are a wrestler, a promoter, or involved with a promotion, and you did not see your poster in that segment, it's because we didn't know about it. We try and peruse social media as best we can to keep up with what's happening in this part of the world, but do miss things. That said, if you want to have your poster included on the show here, or also on the Facebook page, we'd be glad to have it out there for you. Just drop a line to us via the YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, any of the methods that we've got that are available to us, and we'd be glad to have it out there for you. Because it's part of what we do here on Rasslin with Redbeard is promote the talent and events that are in this area. That said, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like the program, go ahead and click that like button. That's what it's there for. And if you really enjoy what we're doing here on the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. That way you'll be the first to know when we've uploaded new content like the midweek update shows, wrestling matches, and of course the Rasslin with Redbeard main show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you again next week.